Hi, I'm Leo, Artistic Director of Virtually Opera, writer of We Sing I Sang, and currently about to talk to you about ritual and post-apocalyptic opera. About a month and a half into COVID-19 hitting the UK, having been rather intensely unproductive for that period of time, I finally had the chance to sit down and really think about what I wanted to do with my work. Right now, we are living in a time of crisis. We've had yet another record-breaking heat wave. We are living during a global pandemic. We know we are living during an age of climate crisis. For me, that makes it interesting to think about what we want art to be during those crises. What does it look like after one apocalypse, or possibly several during our lifetimes? So I made a chart, which should be appearing on screen now. It's trying to suggest questions we'll need to answer, requirements we'll have, and how that art could be true in a fluffy, artsy sense. And ultimately, what is the goal? What is the point of making art in those circumstances? Given the amount of emotional, intellectual and material resource going into making art, it seems important to be able to say, and this art is valuable because. There's a certain amount of work made under the banner of art where that sentence is hard to complete. What's the purpose of it? How does it make the world better? In the current crisis, we'll need to make art in a different way. Shows with a small creative team. Shows where you can speak but can't touch. How do you make those artistically valuable? Shows with a small team, for example, are often wonderful because of the beautiful connection between people. That's something I miss seeing. Then there's a crisis of environment. How do you make sustainable opera? It's a hugely resource-intensive form. A major opera company can spend over £1 million on a new production, which is colossal. Can you imagine in 20 years' time living in a crisis caused by mass consumption and trying to justify that for yet another La Boheme, when there's so many other things those resources could have been used for, or just not used at all? Moving from those assumptions about the future world, what questions can we ask? How do you survive the crisis? How do you cope with outlasting those who didn't? How do you rebuild the trust required to touch someone else? How do you have hope and not descend into despair and anger? What gives us hope? What can we have hope in? Other people? Worlds we could build, like in Hope Punk? So our art needs to be simple, sustainable, and have the intimacy that only live performance can achieve. It needs to be beautiful, because although that's a complicated word, it's one I believe in. It needs to be true. That's really important, because it can be true things in art, like how much do other people love you? Or all human beings are deserving of basic compassion and mercy even when we have to do evil things to them. And how do we rethink things? Can we make theatre where we're not just assuming that humans are any more special than anything else on the planet? Not just telling stories about that, but actually changing the way we produce the work. Because that's what a lot of ideologically aspirational theatre fails to do. Then we can start thinking about our goals. What do people care about and need to hear? Which people? How are we speaking to them? I think you should communicate with your audience in a way that's easy for them to understand. A language that they more or less speak. I'm not making this video in Urdu because I'm pretty sure most of my audience wouldn't understand that. Finally, we need a vision of the world we're trying to go to. None of us speak the language of the future. We're not there yet. But we do need to know where we're trying to go. So, we build a vision of the world that we want, around which we can build rituals. Going to the theatre, making a toast at a formal dinner, or hugging someone when you meet them. Rituals are a way that humans bond and show we're part of the same group. Many of us have missed them in our lives over the past few months of isolation. This work, which we're calling a science fiction ritual opera, it's a ritual of building and breaking a community emerging from a crisis. It's made up of the audience suggesting and guiding a collective consciousness and thinking of how individuals relate to that community. It's not always a happy thing being an individual in a community. We all know that. But this ritual will hopefully be a space to explore that thorny question. You can join us in this ritual at Tete-a-Tete the Opera Festival 2020 on the 15th, live in a theatre, which is a ritual I'm very excited about bringing back into my life. And on the 17th, broadcast online and through the telephone, and for 28 days after that. Maybe you'll come and join us, which would be wonderful. And until then, bye!